Yes, hello and welcome to Further Together, enriching relationships, creating a better future. Welcome once again. If you're just joining us, it is that day of the week where we visit you to share with a guest or a new topic, issues in pertinent with marriage, relationship, sex.
Love, anything to do with relationships. Yes, love, like I'm wearing. We are here for you guys. Like we always say that our heart and our passion and our goal is to enrich relationships. We desire to equip you with the necessary tools to cultivate unity. So what we do is we are either live by ourselves, sharing our own experience and knowledge over the years, and as well as bringing guests that can inspire us, because we need to learn. We need to make this thing work.
Definitely, the moment you cease learning, you cease to grow. And marriage is one of those things which is very hard, and it can be so hard if you are ignorant or if you're stupid.
Mm.
So, educating yourself is a way of knocking out ignorance. So that's why we are here as Further Together. By the way, apart from for Facebook Lives, we work with couples. Coaching them in areas of marriage. We also do work with young people who are, or people who are getting ready to get married, on our marriage preparatory course, which is very important. What we have discovered all the years is whenever we deal with couples, you see that they got into the marriage without proper preparation.
And another thing as well, besides other people getting in marriage without proper preparation, we find that a lot of the times you are just left to navigate this journey of marriage by yourself. And in the midst of that, you encounter different marital seasons, the cold, the summer, and everything. And you are just sometimes by yourself, and you have to figure out, how do we make this thing work? And in some cases, a lot of people give up along the way. So, hence, Further Together is here to support one another throughout the journey of marriage.
And we even speak to those who have better marriages, because they can also be refined to a better level. So even if you say I'm enjoying it's a good marriage,
Marriage can be better.
It can be better.
Absolutely.
And tonight we have a special guest who is coming here. She is no stranger to some of you. We once heard her when we were on the Digging Deep show. And she is coming with her story of how she managed to move from where she was to the place of victory. Tonight we are discussing about the dangers of abuse which are happening or which do happen in marriages. What is it and how do you deal with it when you are faced with a relationship where there's abuse?
And I would employ us to share this broadcast. If you have friends, especially in Africa, we know we are getting equipped with time. But during the days that I grew up, abuse was not abuse. Like, families, husbands and wives were living together, fighting, hitting each other, and it was just normal. It was a norm and a way of life. So I would implore you guys to please tag your friends and family. Let us be equipped, let us be enlightened, so that God forbid, if you do see some of these signs, if you do find yourself in that place,
you know what to do.
You know what to do.
Yes. So without further ado, we would like to invite. She is a coach, a book writing coach, a motivational speaker, as well as a minister of religion. Michelle Watson, you are welcome.
Thank you so much for having me on this awesome show, Further Together. I am actually privileged to be here with you all tonight.
Yes, it's good to have you. And before we get into the business of the day, we know you were on one of the longest vacation I have ever seen. You went for a funeral in Jamaica last year, and you only came some few days ago. How was Jamaica when you left Jamaica?
Beautiful, sunny. Yes, there's challenges, right? Like everywhere else. There is the mask, like everywhere else, but that open space, You know, you're in your, even if you here, you're in your house. You're here, you're in your house. You're in your house. You know, there you're in your yard. You're on your veranda. You're on your patio. You're relaxing. You're looking at the sun shining. So, you can't ask for more than that.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes.
Just quick shout out, Pastor Julie. We acknowledge your presence. Thank you so much, our mentor and mother, for being live with us. Closet, thank you always for joining further together. Chana, yes, we are fine. We're doing great. It's so good to see you back on as well. Oma, thank you for joining. Merlin, Sis Merlin, Sis Violet, Mukabeta, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. So yes, let's get straight to it.
Yes, Michelle, you got a story which you have been telling, and we have invited you because of that story. Can you take us through your story, the one associated with marriage?
Right. Yes. So it's been a journey. Definitely been a journey that you guys are, you know, you've been there from the beginning and you know what it's been like, you know. So you know, you start on this journey that you see it and you think that everything is going to be rosy, everything is going to be beautiful. And it's kind of like when they say you don't know, you see the cover of a book, and it
Yep.
looks so wonderful, but you are unsure of what is happening inside, right? Because the cover looks so amazing and you're thinking like, when I go in, this is going to be an exceptional story. And when you actually start going in, it doesn't relate to the cover, or you're saying to yourself, you know what, this is not what I expected, right? And that is the same thing that happened to me. Like, I saw this and saw it as a way of, you know, overcoming loneliness, a way of getting away from all the other things that was bothering me, because I kind of saw this as kind of like a getaway card from all of the negative stuff that was happening. But you know, in Jamaica they have a saying that you jump out of the fire and you jump into the frying pan, or you jump out of the frying pan and you jump into the fire where it's even hotter, you know. And that is exactly what happened to me. And you know, as a young individual, you know, for every woman, you're looking for this Cinderella story. You watch the TV and you're looking for, you know, this happily
ever after.
you know, right, exactly, because that's what you're believing that you're gonna get. So when you now go in and, you know, what looked so beautiful starts to become rotten or decayed, or, you know, to the point where it's actually changing you as an individual, you start to wonder, like, what was it that I saw before? Like,
Yep.
you know, was I wearing some glasses that hid the truth? But you know, in every avenue, there will always be little signals, but you kind of brush that away because you don't want to believe that, right? You don't want to hold on to that. And you kind of want to say, you know what, it's just a moment, it's just a phase. And so I went through this phase and it was a massive challenge. I, you know, went in being this very bubbly, confident person. And, you know, that really took away from me because I ended up becoming somebody that I wasn't. And, you know, for a long time, I sat believing that this was all a fairy tale and it could change, but it only got worse. So it went from the verbal abuse to the mental abuse to the physical abuse, whether it be the words that was said, whether it be, you know, a punch, a kick, or whatever it was that could inflict pain, right? But you stay because you're thinking, I can fix this. I can make this right. I don't know if it's that womanly thing about us that we're saying we somehow fool ourselves to think that, you know what, this can be nurtured or changed into something that you want it to be. And instead of that happening, the negative keeps coming. And it really destroyed me. It destroyed my identity of who I was, because I had a lot of resentment. I had a lot of hate in me. And that wasn't the person that I saw. I would literally go in the bathroom and lock myself away and think to myself, hold on, like, Michelle, is this you? It's like, is this the Michelle that was always bubbly, always happy? I used to pray. Can you imagine going to work and praying that they would offer you overtime? So you don't have to go home because you feel like when you enter the door, you're walking on eggshells, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, walking on eggshells, and you're saying to yourself, you're like, please, just any overtime, just give it to me, right? I've actually lied before and said I had overtime and literally stopped around the corner and sat in the car just and listen music because I just wanted to delay going in the house. And it was painful, dreading to go home. Like, and that's not a home, is it? Somewhere that you're dreading to go. Like, how can you call that a home? And the kids were there, and it was painful because I wanted to spend time with my children. But at the same time, it was like, I'm gonna have to accept this backlash in order to be with them. And it would happen on the street. We could go to a shop. It could be just one word. You know, I remember once when we moved to a house and there was literally no flooring. And I'm a very like proactive person. Like, and you know, he was at work and my friend said to me, you know what, my uncle is around and he does flooring. So if you get the flooring, he could actually come and do the flooring for you half price. And I was excited. I was like, yep, this is something that I can do to surprise him. At least I'm at home, I'm doing something. And when he came in, he looked and, you know, I said, you know, open the door, come and have a look. And the reaction I got was like, the man had to stop partway in the job, pack everything and leave the floor half done. It was a complete rage. And I couldn't figure out what it is that I did wrong, you know? And until today, I've never been told what it is that I did wrong. But it was just a case of me making any decisions. I was not allowed to make any decisions. I was not allowed to really reach the point where I was not allowed to go to my friend's house without him being there, or a family member's house without him being there. Right?
So you were literally on a leash.
Literally.
How far to go?
Literally on a leash. Literally on a leash. If I went in the shop, if we went into a supermarket, I would have to ask if I could buy this, if it was okay. And and the deepness of it that people would need to get is that I was the one that was actually working the money.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm
not saying to
the money to your husband.
Yeah, because so here's the thing for me. I believe that partnership as it's partnership, right? So if I'm down, then I should not be in a position where I'm up and I'm not lifting you up with me. Right? That is how it is for me. That is how I've always seen it. And so for me, it was working the money, coming home wasn't, oh, it's my money. For me, it was our money. But I was still wrong because it wasn't our money, it was his money.
His money.
So you work it, you give it to me, yeah?
Yes. And then I had to ask permission for what it is that I could buy or spend, and it used to be this bad that if I bought something that, like for instance, a clothes or a top or a dress, and he wasn't there when I purchased it, or he wasn't there to give his opinion on it, straight away we'd say I looked ugly in it.
So tell me, is this something, because sometimes some of these things there are people who just start and there are certain things that have a gradual increment. So how was it something that just started?
So it started first with his words. So it was very weird because it was, so like in my first book, I describe him as Jekyll and Hyde. And the reason why I describe him as Jekyll and Hyde, because he would be somebody that could literally like mash up the TV, do all of these weird things, and then turn around and he would start crying. So people never used to believe me at the very beginning. And it did, as I mentioned before, there were signs, right? So it started with the verbal abuse. Then it went from there to the controlling behavior. And you make these excuses in your head as to why this is happening, because you don't really want it to be what you can clearly see it is. And you want it to work. Like for me, I wanted it to work because I was always that family orientated person, like growing up with my grandparents and seeing them living, 30 odd, 40 odd years anniversary. You kind of want to adapt that thought, that kind of thinking. And then again, it was this thing of, you know, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Don't separate that. But here's the thing, we say that, but then was it God that joined you together? In the sense of, you know, did you pray about this before you entered? You know, did you ask God for direction of this? Right? So we do it many times where we do our own plan. We want to speak to God about it when it's going sour. And then we want to blame him.
Want God to fix it.
Do you understand? For our own wrong decisions. He's given us a free will, right? And we then want to blame him for our own choices. And then we want to then go back and quote the Bible and use the areas that is sufficient to please us, to make us think that we have taken the right steps. And that is exactly how it was for me. And I remember at one point I was doing that blame game, you know, where I was saying, God, you know, why would you let this happen to me? But then hold on, but I didn't consult with God. I didn't speak. I didn't take no time out to say, you know what, let me do my fasting, let me do my praying, or let me talk to God. For me, it was just, I wanted this. It was happening, and I was doing what it takes to make it happen. And I ended up now being in the marriage. There was no God. There was no God in it. Yeah, I would pray because, you know, I grew up in church with my grandmother, and that was a natural thing to do. But just saying a prayer doesn't mean that, you know, you have a relationship with God, right? Anybody can get up and say, you know what, I'm saying the Our Father's prayer, but then that's where it stops.
And you know what, my question there would be, how long did this go for? And did you not think of hitting the highway? You're talking of verbal abuse, physical abuse, and all of that.
Now graduating to
the real fight.
Yeah,
how long did you go for, and what were your feelings?
So I did. So I remember, oh God, I remember when things were getting really bad, and I have a close family, right? I have a big family, but I couldn't tell them out of shame and embarrassment. And I remember when I was pregnant with my son, and I used to be very ill. And I remember being in the house, and he used to go out and work. And if he's not working on his day off, he would go to his friend's house. And keeping in mind, I am not supposed to be going out as I have a life. And I never forget, I was in the house and I was so hungry. I was about 6 months pregnant at the time. I was so hungry. There was no food in the house, and I was so hungry. And to the point I ended up having, I think it was gastroenteritis, if I'm pronouncing it right. So I was so hungry to the point that when I finally ate, like when he came when he felt like, so if he felt like turning up at 11, 12 at night, that's when I was going to get something to eat, right? And it got so bad at one point, I was very ill. Because now I developed gastroenteritis, and I couldn't, when I finally ate, I couldn't keep anything down. So I had to be hospitalized. I had to go on a drip because obviously they were worried about the baby and all of that. And for me, I was like, God, no, this needs to stop now. Like, when am I going to wait until I die before, you know, I do something about this, or I walk away? But then at the time, you know, I'm pregnant here now with my son, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, is this really the time for me to really say, you know, that I'm going to, you know, let everybody know what's going on and step away from this? And you kind of start to think to yourself, oh, my child is going to grow up without a dad. And, you know, you it's almost like you play out all of these scenarios in your head to talk yourself into staying. And I remember, like, all the while, like, as a teenager growing up, I used to think to myself, like, I would never let a man treat me like that, right? And I used to say to myself, hold on, this is the same thing I used to say to myself, that when I see men treating women a certain way, I was like, I would never let a man do that to me. But yet here I was in that very same situation and allowing it to happen. And this went on that period of time, 2 years, 3 years, and it's climbing, right? And and it goes by, time goes by so quickly, right? And within this period of time, I think when it's hitting 4 years, that's when I developed a tumor, and I had to have an operation to have it removed. And, you know, he had a scenario happened and he had punched me on this tube and things were getting worse. And at this point, I knew that something had to give. I just didn't know how to do it because there was now a fear factor. Now, remember, I've been going through this for a while. So now I'm seeing the ugly sides of this person, right? So you're now having this fear factor of what happens when I decide that this needs to end. And then the other part of it is, as a mother, you're thinking, especially if you've seen the children, because he was very playful with children. That's one thing. Very, very playful.
Michelle, the what happens part of it is that you were afraid of him, that if you leave him, he's gonna come and revenge. He's gonna come and
revenge. It's gonna be it's gonna be revenge. It's gonna be, it's literally chaos, right? Because I know how ugly this person could be. And then the other side of it as well, I knew how well he was with the children, and I was thinking, I'm literally going to be ripping my family apart by walking away. I am going to be the guilty one. So I took the spin off of him and put it on myself, right? So I felt like I would be the one that would be destroying the home. And it got to a point one night where something happened, and I can never forget. It was my first time I think my second time of really like fighting back. I think the first time happened, I literally damaged the car, like, because I couldn't get to him. Like, the rage that came out, it was like really scary because I don't normally get angry or upset. And that rage that came, I was like, oh my God, this was scary. But then one night, I remember, like, I don't know what came up in me, but I hit back. And obviously it was like a shock for him, like, she's hit back, sort of thing. And so it went from a kick, he kicked me and I kicked him back. I'm laughing about this now because it seems hilarious, but it's not. I'm just picturing it on the stairs right now. I think, yeah, that's what it is. Something happened and I responded and he threw food in my face. He threw the dinner in my face. And then he hit me and I hit him back. And he kicked me and I kicked him back. And literally, it was a full-on fight at this point, because I think I realized that it reached a point where I needed to stand up for my life, because it was just too much. I think, you have a time when you just snap. I think that was my snap. And that night I left, and I went I literally was sleeping in the car, and he came out. He was banging the window, telling me to come back inside. I didn't go back inside. And then in the morning, I drove to my friend's house. And then that's when I started to open up to my family about what was really happening to me. And they were in shock. They couldn't believe it. They didn't believe it. And he was going to them and crying, like bawling, tears, everything. And they're like, there's no way what I'm saying to them could be real. They're saying to me, there's no way you could be such a good actor. You seem so fine. And I said, yeah, because that's what I wanted you to see. Right. And he came up with a lot of stories. But then after, when this separation now happened, then I was now seeing another ugly side. So when I now stepped away and decided that this is it, I then started seeing another side. I would wake up, find him standing over me. I would go to work and I would come back and my clothes gone from the wardrobe or scissors being put through them. I remember one morning waking up to go to school, to drop the kids to school, and I'm trying to open the door and the door wouldn't open. It was barricaded from the outside. I had to climb through the window with the kids to get to school. I would go to my friend's house and I step outside and my tires are punctured.
Yeah, I still remember one of the days meeting you in the whole car. I was fried.
Thank you.
I looked at the car and I said, what happened? What could this? And that's when you narrated that the tires were, they were all spiked and the whole car was crashed.
You know what? I didn't even remember that it's that long that you guys even saw that. Wow. Because you know what? Sometimes when you're talking, people will wonder, like, is she really telling the truth? And it's so good because then you never know who's in the audience or who's listening. So there would be no point in lying. So I'm saying this, I'm not even remembering that you were there seeing the car. Like, the car was keyed every night. Yeah. Every night. It was like it was a reminder to say, I am here, I am watching you.
I'm watching you.
Yeah. So every night I would go out and there would be another design. Like it reached to the point, as you guys rightly said, there was literally almost no area on that car that was not keyed. Right. And it made me very paranoid. I couldn't fall asleep because I was scared. Even though I got the locks changed, I was still scared that somehow you would get in the house. I'm coming out of the house and I'm scared to exit because I don't know what's gonna happen. And that fear escalated to the point where I believe it was even more than when he was in the house living with me. Because I think I kind of knew, or I could see his mood when it's building up. But now I'm not seeing him. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what his plans are, towards me. And so that fear, like, really drove me to be at a really low mental state. I lost my job. I entered into debt. I nearly lost my house. I remember the bailiff coming and trying to barricade the door to get in because I was strung out. Like I was in a really bad place, and I still hadn't fully opened up to my family about where I was or where I was at mentally. And my kids were asking, for their dads, and you just feel anybody that goes through depression, right? They feel and they believe that everything that has gone wrong is their fault. And that's where I was. Yeah, the blame. It's so much easier to put the blame on yourself. I no longer trusted my decisions because I thought if I could make the decision to put somebody like this in my life, right, I'm not a good decision maker. So I no longer had faith in my own decisions, right? And I'm thinking, what kind of a parent can I be to my children? What kind of a parent can I be if I'm making such crazy decisions and making this go on for so long? So, and then the loss of identity, because I already had in my head everything that he was saying about me, that I'm ugly, that I'm good for nothing, that I'm lucky that he's with me. Look how nice he looks, or look how good he looks, who would want me, who would want to pick me up, and all of these words, they're seeds, right? They're seeds that's been planted. And it's easy for somebody to say, well, that's not who you are. But when you've reached to a point when you no longer recognize yourself, when you look in the mirror, right? When you no longer, it's like when they say when you don't know what you stand for, you will fall for anything. I no longer had what I was standing for. I no longer knew who I was or what I'm about. So I took on, what he was saying about me, right? And I entered into that dark place, and my routine became wake up, bring the kids to school, come back, go into bed, pull the sheet over my head and cry. And I remember going to the shop one day, and I just stood there at the roadside and I thought, how better the life of my children would be if I left, I wasn't here anymore. They wouldn't have to worry. They wouldn't have to choose, because I felt like they were put in a position.
What do you mean if you say, if I wasn't here anymore?
If I took my life, if I died, it would be better. My family wouldn't have to deal with the issues. Again, remember the blame game. The blame game was already there, so I already blamed myself for everything.
You have now become a volunteer victim.
Volunteer victim.
Forcing you. You are doing this voluntarily.
100%, right? And so I thought, seeing that it's all my fault, it would be better if I am removed from all of this, right? Then they don't have to choose. Then my family doesn't have to deal with all the aggro and all the hassle and everything that was happening. And to be honest, I just couldn't take it. Was like a pain that you just want to stop. You get up every day with a pain that you just want to stop. Keeping in mind, during all of this time, my son had challenging behavior. So I had the school calling me 24/7. So you have to come and get your son. You have to come and remove him from the school. I'm coming back and my car is keyed. I'm going to the house and the bills are piling up. Or there's a bailiff waiting for me, so I can't enter the house. I have to sit in the car until they've gone. Or I've come and the car is clamped. At that time, it was a hire purchase car. They're calling me about their money. So when you're having all of that going on at the same time, from the operation of the tumor, they said to me that the left side of my face is going to be paralyzed. And they said even though the operation is complete and the paralysis hasn't happened, it can still come on. So I could go to bed and wake up, and you know, the left side of my face would be paralyzed. So I had that as well, like thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have to deal with that. Like my kids wouldn't want to know me. How am I gonna look? So especially if you're not working and you're not keeping busy and you have all of these things going on,
Wow.
right? And the devil is speaking loudly and you are listening, right?
And once off, you're not getting the support that you should be getting from your spouse.
Exactly. So you are on your own, right? I wanted to leave. It was dark. It was dark. It was a dark place. It was dark. I cannot. So sometimes when I hear people like criticize individuals that have made an attempt, and they say straight away that that person is selfish, in their head at that moment, they don't think they're being selfish.
So before you talk us through how the turnaround happened, you know, some people may want to know, where was all this happening? Was it in Africa, in Nigeria,
Kingston, Jamaica?
Jamaica?
No, right here.
Go and seek help, you know, outside your family.
In the metropolitan city of London. Right?
Metropolitan city of London, right there in Tottenham, London, N17.
And as well, the other thing would be, did you guys love each other from the outset? Did you love this guy? And outside the fight, would you make up for like a few minutes and you have a quickie, and then after that you're
Listen, so here's the thing. So when I look back, I'm like, I always look at it and I'm like, this person doesn't tick the boxes that you would normally, like I had in my head of who my, you know, my guy, my Mr. Guy would be, right? But I realized that at that point, I was, you know, sometimes you're lonely, and this is no excuse, right? You're lonely and you fill gaps, right? And you fill gaps and you make it what you want it to be, right? You make it what you want it to be. And I believe I did that. I made it what I wanted it to be. Now, don't get me wrong. He was a very, very, and that's why I said Jekyll and Hyde, very romantic person. Like if you saw him and you didn't hear this story, or if you didn't know that this is the person, you would not know, because he would at times would still come in and bring me like a cake with a cherry on it and, you know, present it. Or I would come from work, like those are the times when I was still working and stuff. I would come from work and he would have cooked dinner. He loved cooking. And the table would have been set nicely, and there would be a candle. And so it was so easy to fall back in, because he's now showing you again what it is attractive. You understand?
You know what? I would say you're kind of weighing the costs and the benefits. Like, what is this relationship costing me, and what are the benefits? So you're kind of in between. You don't really know what to do.
In between, you're like, should I go? But then, and then you see this, the other side comes out, and you think, yeah, you know, he has the ability to change. He has the potential to change. He has the potential to be that husband. He has the potential to be that good husband. He has the potential to walk away from this anger, because he would come and he would beg, I am sorry. He will play love songs. He will do all of these things, these remarkable things. Right? So it wasn't like he was just this outright cold person all the while. No, because then what would have been the point? You know, how would we relate, you know, as a married couple? So it wasn't. There was beauty. There was a beauty on the other side as well, you know. So it's like you know, you have those sweets, like those chewing gums. My daughter normally loves them. The outside is layered and it's very sweet. And when you bite into it, it's sour. Yeah, you understand? Yeah. So he had that knack of popping out that sour bit and putting the sweet bit back in. And so you would think, yeah, it's gonna work.
Fast forward now, you know, we see a new Michelle who is very much transformed who is now coaching others
and is married.
Facing abuse. I attended the wedding. You know, I was one of those people who was spinning and rolling, making noise on the wedding. And you know, how did all that happened?
It's amazing because, as I mentioned, he made me to be within me an ugly person, because I developed the hate that was in me was so severe. I had so much hate and bitterness in me. And you know, I thank God. I thank God, because I know that it can only be God that can remove that level of bitterness and hate. Like, even if I was at a family function and I just heard that maybe he's outside and he's gonna enter, I am finding a route of exit. And it was as if I was the guilty one to be blamed here. But I remember when I was going through that dark moment, you know, it was like 2 days. I think it was 2 days after I actually attempted suicide. 2 days after I attempted suicide. Obviously, I was attending, you know, church off and on at International Christian Celebration Center, as you guys know. And so I was not a regular member. And I remember I got a call. It was about like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I looked at it and I saw the name and I realized it was the pastor. And I'm like, oh, they must have called by mistake, because there's no way that a pastor is going to call you at that time. And then I took the kids to school, came back, went back to lying in my bed, and my phone rang again. And I realized that it was them, and I answered. And I thought maybe, you know, they're just going to say it was a mistake and etc. And he said, no. He said, I couldn't sleep throughout the night because of you. I couldn't sleep. And he said he kept seeing the vision of me lying in a coffin, but I was lying down on dead bones. So there was a lot of dead bones. I wasn't dead. I was buried. It was almost like I was buried alive. So I was buried alive. I was in this coffin and I was alive, and he couldn't sleep. And he's, you know, they prayed for me and invited me to church, and I went and I sat down, and you know, I didn't need to talk. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say to God. I didn't have anything to say, because by this time I was so far away from God, like so far away. And I just sat there in the church that day and I was just crying. I just cried through the praise, cried through the worship, but I just felt this weight, like this heavy weight was being lifted. And since then, I kept going back to church, and I was now starting to be reminded of who God said I am in him. Yeah. You know, that is what was missing. That is what was missing. Because when you don't know who you are, anybody can title you as anything. When you don't know who you are, you understand? When you don't know who you are, and I didn't know who I was. And when I started to recognize who I was in Christ, not just who I was, but who I was in Christ, that is where the change started to happen. So I was believing that I had forgiven. So you know, you're going to church, new convert, and I think, yep, I've forgiven. I'm now talking to him. You know, when he used to message me, I would just say thank you. Whenever he, you know, was irate on the phone, I would say, God bless you, thank you. And I realized that I hadn't fully forgiven, because I would speak with him, I would have a dialogue, but within my heart, I know what was feeling. You understand? I know what I was feeling was hatred, was anger. And it wasn't until I really let that go onto God. And then I realized, because I was like, man, either I'm going to be, you know, a nun or it's either I'm going to be a nun, or I'm going to end up maybe being a lesbian because I don't want a man anymore. Or I'm going to end up going out there and saying, you know what, when I do feel that sexual urge, I'm going to maybe go and pay and, you know, and one of those escorts or something. Because I was like, I'm done. I don't want nothing to do with a man. I don't want to be in a relationship with a man anymore. I don't want to know a man. And obviously this was before I, you know, was in Christ. This was before I had
you come to church.
Yeah, before I came to church. I was like, listen, if a man called to me on the street like he was getting daggers, like don't, please don't go there, sort of thing. But being able to forgive and being able to realize that, no, I've done a lot as well, and God has forgiven me. Like, I can't then, paint every man with the same brush. And I think that a lot of women do that. They paint every man, with the same brush. You had this bad experience, so because of that, every man is the same. No, right? Amen. What happened to faith? Why are you believing that because you've gone through this bad experience, you're gonna face it again? Why not put that trust in God and saying and knowing that, you understand? This was a mess, but guess what? This mess is gonna prepare me for a greater message. And a lot of what I went through in that marriage has helped me. What I've gone through in that relationship has helped me in my marriage now.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's helped me now, because at the very beginning, it didn't. Because it was almost like I was grading my husband now based on that old situation, right? So when he said 1, I wanted to say 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because I am not taking no rubbish from no man anymore.
Guarding yourself. You don't want history to repeat itself.
You don't want history to repeat itself. So for me, it was like, yep, I'm an independent woman. I'm doing my thing. You don't tell me what to do. We're married, but guess what? I'm my boss.
You can't control me like A was controlling my life.
Yeah. Who are you to tell me I can't go out? So, but the good thing of, my husband now is we knew each other from way back when. He was like that childhood, stalker that I had back then, right? That we ended up coming back together again after all of those years. And so we knew each other, and and what I love is he's my friend. And one of the things that I learned is, don't be paying attention to all these commercials showing you, or movies showing you this perfect man. Listen, there's no perfect, man that's going to
try.
You understand? Going to tick every single box, because sometimes as women, that's what we look for. And then what we do, we spend time calculating the man. Oh, you didn't do this. You didn't bring me flowers. You didn't kiss me when I was going to the door. You didn't do this. And you lose sight of what this person is doing, right? And for a long while, I was tied into that, because I was so used to having this abuse that I felt like I needed to be ticking boxes. How does he sound when he's speaking to me? Is he raising his voice? Okay, that means he's another abusive one. So it was all of these things that was keeping me from really giving my all into my marriage. But then when I came to know Christ, and with teaching and all the different, marriage seminars and reading books and really studying the Word of God, I was able to, one, let go of the past. Because the thing is, we want to push on forward, but we're still holding on. You can't, if you want to pull forward and you still have the old things pulling you back, you're going to be stuck in the middle. You're not going to really get the beauty of what you're moving forward to, right? Because you're still holding the baggage of yesterday, and it's clouding what you want to enjoy right here and right now, right? So I had to learn that, my husband now is not the relationship that I went through. He's a completely different person. And I had to acknowledge and know him for him. And we are friends. And one of the things that I love is that we're able to be open with each other. If I'm not happy about something, I'm able to say, I didn't like XYZ, without feeling like I'm going to be ridiculed, or I'm going to be hit or kicked or boxed because maybe I said the wrong thing.
Guess what? The Bible says perfect love drives away fear.
Yeah.
So there's no fear in love.
No fear. I'm happy to be, and I love that, because I'm happy to just be me. I'm a fun person. I like giving jokes. I like, so I like winding my husband up, and I know that, okay, it's not going to be something that's going to turn out into a fist fight like I'm in the ring with Muhammad Ali and certain stuff. I trouble my husband sometimes when his belly starts going, I start troubling. I say, you're getting a belly. Two of us can't have a belly. And, if I was in the other relationship, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. So it's been 12 years going on. And I'm thanking
bless my brother. I hope Mr. Watson, you're watching right now.
Yeah, he's watching. I call him my PA. So my light and all the little bits, he's the one that's doing it. So he told me today that he's quit, he's resigned. So I said, but you can't expect to get paid and you've resigned. Like, it doesn't happen. Doesn't happen.
So he wants to resign because I'm here. Tell him, you know what, the lockdown is over. I don't want to come down there.
He can't resign. It's not possible.
Yes, Pastor Julie, thank you very much. Perfect Love drives away fear, and Pastor Julie and Pastor Peter Prestiak.
Yes, love them.
The pillar where Michelle has been, getting the support and the strength all the way.
And the love and the teaching, and it's this is the thing. This is where it comes again. It's about having that support network. People that you can turn to, that they're not going to, judge you based on your situation. And that I believe that is very, very important, because a lot of people, that's the reason why they're scared to speak out, because they believe that they are going to be judged based on their situation. That's why I remained silent, because I believed I was going to be judged based on my situation, because you think I've made a wrong choice. How are people going to now look at me? I've attempted suicide, how are people going to look at me? This man did a lot of things, some of which I say because, because of my children, I kind of keep them. And he did a lot of things that sometimes words is not enough to really articulate the pain or what's happened. So really having guidance and having support and having real people to speak to that won't just give you advice based on your circumstances, but really look at it from the point of, you've gone through this, but this is not where your story ends. And if anybody's listening, like, that's going through various situations, this is not where your story ends, right? It's only a pathway, it's only a tunnel that you're going through, right? That you're going to end up being that light carrier for those people. And it's amazing. Like, I used to be so ashamed to share my testimony.
Now, Michelle, you have been through it. I would say through it all. And like Priscilla mentioned at the beginning, that when we grew up there in Africa, where we come from, and I believe it's the same thing in Jamaica as well, Kingston Town, there is no domestic violence. It's mama and dad fighting. It's my mother and father fighting, which is kind of normal.
It's normal.
And we have people who may be watching right now, and they are going through abuse. It could be physical, it could be verbal, it could be mental abuse. As motivational speakers, sometimes you just say, if you're fed up with the situation which you are, move on, my friend. You're not a tree. But you have been there. You understand the depth of it. What can you say to somebody who is, they are feeling the heat? It could be a man, it could be a woman, because domestic violence now, it's now both sides.
Yeah, it is now both sides. I'm glad you say that, because a lot of time people tend to think it's just the woman that goes through it. No, there's men that also go through it, and sometimes for them it's even worse, because because they're looked at as the stronger vessel. It's almost like if they're going through this, they're weak, or they should be ashamed even more. And the main thing that someone has to realize is that you have to realize, like, where you are. I'm not going to say to somebody, like, the first time that you exchange words, or your partner has said something abusive to you, that means yes, you just get up and you just end your marriage without trying to make it work. But at the same time, you need to ask God for that spirit of discernment and wisdom to know when it is time to exit. If it's not even for your safety alone, also for the safety of your children. Especially in this day and age, we've seen so many, especially women, lose their lives because they were scared to speak up. At least speak out. If it's going to be counseling, if the person is not willing to do anything to fix it, to make it work, you then need to ask yourself, like, how long are you able to continue in this? Because if you lose yourself, right, you can lose yourself to the point of no return. And that's what people don't realize. It's all good to tell somebody to stay, but you don't know how much damage is happening to that individual whilst they're staying. So I know some people say, yep, the Bible says don't leave, but you also then need to come back down to the fact of, like, that situation, if I was still in it, it would have pushed me further and further away from God, as opposed to God, right? And So there's a lot of,
you may have ended your life as well.
Because most likely I would have tried to end my life again.
Hell, because when you end your life, you don't go to heaven.
You're gonna go to hell.
So either way, there wasn't perfect thing that would have been done. And finally, you're an author and you're a coach. Can you just in the next minute or so share with us about your books and what you're doing now?
Okay, yep, great. So I from the back end of what happened to me and what I went through with my son, I wrote my first book, which was Overcome and Rise Above: How to Turn the Downside of Your Challenges to the Upside of Renewing Your Life. And this was basically around the commencing of the transformation. Like, instead of allowing your circumstances and your situations to be the excuse for you not to keep moving, or the excuse for you not to accomplish or live the will of God, in your life, instead of using it as an excuse, as a blockage, use it as a reason why you need to move on, why you need to share your testimony, why you need to go out there and win souls, why you need to, carry out your vision and your purpose. So that's what this book is about. And that's where my journey started, and it became a bestseller. And I received a letter of commendation from the Queen, and I started speaking. I started to become a voice for women and also for parents that had, children with challenging behaviors. And then it kind of grew from there, to the point where people were now asking me to speak on their stages and asking me to come and do trainings. And obviously then I started my business where I was doing personal development coaching. And that's what my second book is about. Rise Above and Believe. It's Do or Lie: How to Get Rid of Excuses and Create the Life That You Desire. And this is all around, living a purpose-driven life. Like, what is your purpose? What is your vision? And look at the goals that you're going to set, those stepping stones to get to the destination of that you've always desired. And that was the second book that I wrote. And then I took it another step further by starting my coaching business solely on my own, and also helping other people to share their stories, because I believe that I wanted to become, and I am, a ripple effect. And I want to be that ripple effect, like that drop in the ocean that makes a difference to many lives. And God has opened so many doors. I've traveled to many different countries to share my story, as well as training and teaching. And then my third book, I think somebody asked, how many books have I written? So it's 3 physical books.
As well, where to
get them? They're on Amazon. Yes, so they're on Amazon. And I can share the link in the group as well, in the comments afterwards as well. And then I wrote my third book, Authority: How to Write Your Business Book and Use It as a Marketing Tool, because that's what I really did with my second book. I really used it as a marketing tool to boost my business. And I'm just amazed sometimes at how far God has brought me from and to where I am today. And none of it is of me. None of it is me, right? Sometimes I sit down and I look back and I think, I nearly killed this girl.
Killed the testimony.
Yeah. When I look and somebody comes to say, oh my God, you've inspired me. And then I go home and I think, oh my God, I nearly killed that girl. Or I'm watching myself on the TV or on YouTube or somewhere, and I'm watching myself talk, and I'm saying, Michelle, you nearly killed that girl. And it's really,
it's her story. And if you want to get in touch with Michelle Watson, she is on Instagram, she is on Facebook, she is on YouTube as well, Twitter. And you can get in touch with her. I believe she will drop her social media handles here. What life can be like a washing machine. It can take you 10, toss you, you hit the walls, but the whole idea is to make you clean. When you come out sparkling. This is what happened to Michelle. So if you are out there and you are having challenges in your marriage, you want to speak to Michelle, she's right there. Further Together is also there. We work with couples, and we also have the most wanted pre-marital course, which we've been working with a lot of young people. So if you want us, get in touch with us. Our numbers are right on the screen.
And I just want to add that don't die in silence. Whatever stage you're at in your marriage, don't die in silence. there is light at the end of the tunnel. Do get in touch. You need support. You need a support network. So don't die in silence. God intended marriages to be enjoyed and not to endure and suffer and die inside that marriage. So do get support. And yes, make sure you get the books that Michelle has mentioned. The girl that nearly killed herself, but now is living a purposeful life. It has been lovely having you, Michelle.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And I thank God for the grace that He gives me to share my story. And I do hope somebody has been inspired.
Yes, Pastor Julie said we need a book which is titled "I Nearly Killed That Girl." Coming up. What more can we say apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your precious position? We know there are many of you who are signed in. If you could please share with friends, there are some who are not live on this and they're going to watch it as a replay. Share with them so that they will also empower others, especially women. You empower women, you're empowering the community. For me and my beautiful wife, we are signing out till we meet again. God bless you. We love you all.
Bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Michelle.